And recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd bow with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for a new year. We welcome those that could be here tonight and Jim from afar. We just ask your presence on us this night and this year, that we would be guided by your wisdom and not our own. We pray for a vibrant community, a safe community, a growing community, and that those that don't know you would come to know you in this fiscal year, Lord. And just ask that you'd be with us tonight and guide us in all we do. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, first order of business tonight. We have Jim on Zoom, so we have a quorum. And the first order of business is our reorganization of the board, where we take a motion for president and vice president of the council. So right now, I would entertain a motion for the president of the council for this coming year.
I'd like to nominate Steve Huggins to go ahead and serve as president of County Council for 2022.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
Have a second. All in favor? I'll let Lisa take the roll call on that.
Steve Huggins.
Aye.
Seth Wicker.
Aye.
Chuck King.
Aye.
Vicki Andrews.
Aye.
Todd Smith.
Aye.
Scott Elsey.
Aye.
Jim Oswald.
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Everyone's condolences. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the vice president of the council.
I'd like to make the motion and nominate Seth Wicker as vice president.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Let's take a roll call.
Steve Huggins.
Aye.
Seth Wicker.
Aye.
Chuck King.
Aye.
Vicki Andrews.
Aye.
Todd Smith.
Aye.
Scott Elsey.
Aye.
Jim Oswald.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, I'd like to thank the council for your continued support. First order of business is the minutes then from last December 22nd of last year. Did everyone have a chance to see those and review those? Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to pass the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
A motion and second. Need a roll call?
Steve Huggins.
Aye.
Seth Wicker.
Aye.
Chuck King.
Aye.
Vicki Andrews.
Aye.
Todd Smith.
Aye.
Scott Elsey.
Aye.
Jim Oswald.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, Sheriff, you're up.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Promise you I have nothing to vote on. So we're gonna go through that. It's easier at the commissioners meeting.
Yes.
There's less people to say aye. My jail population as of this afternoon was 72 total inmates. 27 of those are pretrial superior, 24 pretrial circuit, 7 F6, and 8 DOC. I gave you the monthly stat reports for December. Also attached to that is the yearly comparison from 2020 to 21. And then also the generated income comparison from 2020 to 2021. Pretty similar. 2020 it was 413,000. Last year was 407. One of the biggest differences was the gun permits. There was about an $8,000 difference. So if you added that in, what we have not been reimbursed for yet in that category, you'd be about almost exactly the same.
And you're confident you'll still get reimbursed for that?
They tell us we are. We've yet to see it. They've
haven't
taken
heard
the steps
anything.
for us to register and submit what we collected in 2020. So the state's still I think what they tried to put in the budget, they were trying to make it a budget line item, when everybody turned in their figures, I think it was a little bit more, so I think they're still trying to figure out.
Was 2020 a high year?
It was, for us, it was what, 14,000?
Yeah, so I assume
we're a
that
smaller
probably
county.
was the same
Yeah.
for most other counties.
Yeah, you throw 92 other counties in there, it's a lot of money.
That's a number.
So, there's no questions there. I'm gonna move on. I also turned in my biannual commissary reporting. I'm required by statute to report that twice a year to the fiscal body and to the auditor. So that is given to you to show our expenses through the commissary account. And that is sitting pretty well. If anybody's got any questions on that. Next, I gave each of the council members and the auditor a copy of the annual jail inspection. I actually just got that today, which was performed at the end of the year last year, I believe in September. So, no issues there. You're welcome to read through it. It's kind of a lengthy, more of a yes/no questions, and there's some comments in there, but everything was fine on the jail inspection. They do that once a year. Usually it's we're on a schedule. We have ours performed about every September. It'll be a little bit different this year because the jail inspector will be making random visits throughout this year because of the construction project. He did inform us of that. We haven't started it yet when he did this jail inspection. So, so it's not a complete jump for him. He's gonna make random visits as the project progresses. And then we also have to have his blessing on it when it's complete. So,
Wow.
so he'll be back out for that as well.
Is that normal?
That
I
is
mean, that's
typical,
sort of
even for new
construction.
jails that are built, they have to be,
Okay.
yep, they have to give their blessing on that, so.
Can you give us a brief update on
Yep.
construction?
I had it on my
Okay,
list, but I'll,
Whatever order you want to do that in.
Yeah, I can just do it now, I'll jump it before the other one. This week's been pretty crazy, I know it's only been 2 days, but they've been full bore. As far as the new Sally Port and the intake addition portion, all the footers are poured and completed. Today we're cutting into the current Sally Port brick facade, as that's where they're building off of that structure. They're getting ready to start building the walls to the new addition with the cinder blocks and start raising that up. They haven't poured any concrete on the inside of that yet. I think with the cold weather, they're probably gonna wait a little bit on that. We have currently moved out of our current intake area and into our temporary intake area. That'll be kind of temporary for at least most of the build until intake is completed before we can move back into it. So we had the fire people out there working on the replacement of all this fire suppression stuff and the alarms. They're going to be there all week replacing all 4 of those. That was part of that additional loop that we added on at the end when we enclosed the Sally Port, and then the replacement because those are all obsolete. Eventually with the new addition, I'll add a 5th loop on there for the fire alarm system. So yeah, a lot of the water stuff is done. We're waiting on a computer to come in that helps control that, helps regulate our water usage and those type of things. I think I brought up in the past, we did finally fix a major water leak in our system. That's been taken care of, and we finally got that cell back concreted in and everything else, so that's good to go. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy as far as having construction. If you drive by, there's big mounds of dirt out front because they were digging and replacing sewer lines out through the front, which would be the south part of the property. So it's been interesting getting people in and out of the jail as far as inmates, because most of the construction area is happening right where we always did most of our travel when we brought people to jail or took them to court and those type of things. So each day has kind of been creative for us, but it's been good. It's been keeping us on our toes as far as that. We do have a construction meeting on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll get an update on, usually most of the update is what are they having a problem getting supply-wise and those type of things, and the next steps moving forward. But from our last meeting that we had, it'd be almost 3 weeks ago, because of the holidays, we're still on track as far as their timeline where they thought they would be at this point in the project. So everything's looking good there. Sounds like he's rapping.
Keep with it
Lastly,
on Mute.
I think I kept a copy for myself, maybe I didn't.
Well, he can speak, he needs to speak. though.
I also handed out canine statistics. AJ Campbell, Sergeant AJ Campbell is our canine handler for Canine Leo. He keeps track of all his stats yearly, and he gives those to me. I think I shared them with you last year as well. It's kind of nice to see the investment in what a canine dog does in our community. It takes a lot of work and training for a canine officer to be a dog handler, and the investment that the county makes in having one of those dogs, there is a significant payoff as well. Plus, he's pretty famous. If you read in there, the last 2 years he's won the News Banner first responder awards. So he's.
How do your other police officers feel losing
Yes,
out
I gotta
to
say
a
that.
canine? I'm just kind of curious. Are
Anybody
they?
jealous about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, they may not be as loving maybe as the canine. Well, if you're on the right side of the canine, but
That's right. So no, he does good. He's pretty famous on our Facebook page and everything else, and he's also a good public relations thing for our department, and kids love him and everything else. But in the end, he does exactly what he's supposed to do, and that's to help deter crime and sniff out drugs and apprehend people that don't want to comply and those type of things. So we're very glad to have him. The only other update I had, we recently hired 2 new deputies. One is at the academy. His first day was yesterday, so he is in his very first week. Our second one started yesterday as well, and he's doing the field training before he goes to the May academy class. Both of them need the academy. So those filled vacancies for 2 people that had left. So that got us back to current status. But if you remember, you got an extra deputy approved for me in this year's budget. We are currently in that hiring process. We have testing this weekend, and that process is moving along. So hopefully we'll get that third one filled shortly, and that'll cover the last deputy vacancy. The jail, we're still working. We're sitting on 4 or 5 vacancies right now on jail officers, so we're working hard to try to get that out there so we can fill those vacancies and take some of the stress load off of our current employees. So other than that, unless you've got any questions about anything else going on, that's what's been keeping us busy.
Excellent.
yeah.
All right, appreciate the
Thank you,
updates.
Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marlene, you're up.
I don't want to rush by.
He knows how to drive fast.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So the last time that we met, we talked a little bit about moving the part-time line item in the health department budget, which is $20,000 to a part-time nurse, to a part-time medical assistant. The reason being, we have currently been paying that medical assistant out of the grant monies, the COVID grant monies that we received when COVID first started. And we still have some money left in that grant and could continue to pay. But we'd also like to be able to utilize her within the health department. We've not been able to fill that part-time position for a nurse in the health department. As a certified medical assistant, she can help with vaccines and testing, but go a little bit further as far as keeping the day-to-day operations moving along. So you had given the approval for the line item to be moved, or that balance to be moved, but we need to talk about the salary that should be paid. She's been working with us since 2020, when COVID first started, at $20 an hour. She started out, she's a contract employee under the grant, so no taxes or no benefits or nothing like that. As a part-time employee, the only benefit she's going to get now is to have her taxes taken out. But she will be doing the same jobs. She will still be testing outdoors in all of the elements, and she will still be given the vaccines. COVID is going to be her main focus. If and when it decides to slow down and or even go away, we'd be able to utilize her within the health department in the same aspects. So I thought, and I talked with Lisa about doing a range on that particular medical assistant program from $17 to $20. We were paying $17 to other persons, $17 an hour to other persons that was just doing testing and didn't have any of the management that we were doing off-site. The person that is the medical assistant was responsible for packing up the samples and sending them off and doing some tracking, and was off-site. She was on her own, and so now moving back in, again, she'll be doing a lot of the same job. I hate to see her pay go down in an hourly wage. So again, I would like to go ahead and set a $17 to $20 range on that. Should she ever quit or for future use, we would be able to have that already established, and maybe Lisa wouldn't have to redo a ordinance, salary ordinance.
So is she going to stay at $20 an hour then?
That's where, yeah, if we could.
So is it wise to cap her right where she
Yeah.
is? Or should we extend the range and then let
Make it
that-
broader.
We could do that.
You still have to come here for those, any increases, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Not, she could go up to the top.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
without coming to council,
Then we
okay.
can lean, sure.
But if we will be at the top, if we start her now at 20, where she's been, that'll be the top. So do we want to do a range of 17 to 22 or something like that?
What's council think, Andy?
Because
Thoughts?
she's gonna have withholding taken out of this now, right?
She will, and that's
Where
not.
previously wasn't, it was just a
Nothing was
straight
taken
straight
out.
fee.
She was
But it would have been up to her to pay the taxes on her own anyway, I mean, at the end, so that's kind of a wash.
Yeah, that's, this is
I
a
mean, that's-
benefit that the
Yeah, being on
county will
salary.
pay
Mhm.
their short
Yeah.
share, so that will
Social
help her,
Security.
actually. That will
Yes,
benefit
yes,
her.
it will,
Mhm.
yeah.
So she would still be considered part-time then, right?
Yes, she will be
The
part-time,
hourly,
yes.
the hours she's working.
Yep.
I would have to think that you'd want to be up towards the $22, I would
Right.
think, at this stage. I mean, the way things have been going with, again, it'd be your discretion and what you
Right.
think that
Mhm.
Okay,
her abilities are. That's my feeling.
I would think you'd want a little bit of latitude there.
Yeah,
okay.
not just leave her at the top and that's it.
Vicki, Chuck, any thoughts?
You know me, I'm kind of a tightwad. I'd say, hey, if
that's what you're
she's
asking
good
for, leave it there.
$20 an hour.
Yeah.
But the range, I think, is great because,
Yeah, we're talking
you know,
about the
maybe you
range,
should
not the actual
see-
salary.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think the range, would be good, 17 to 22. That gives you some
Right,
variation there.
Mhm.
And, you know, she may end up doing more than COVID. We don't know what the future is.
we
Is a
certainly
problem.
don't, because if we had that crystal ball and could figure that out, and, you know, as of yesterday, we got new information there too. So testing, we've been testing anybody requesting it. Of course, it's free. As of yesterday, they're putting restrictions on it. If you listen to the news, you've heard that. But the rapid tests, what we give, those are in high demand right now, and there's a shortage. And which we kind of figured out would be once they started putting them in stores and not supplying us with them.
Right.
Ours
Do
is
you
about
have
to-
enough?
We've got
Keep up
some,
with your needs.
and we've ordered more, but as of, even back in November, our supply was about to expire in a week, and we weren't able to get any more, and that's just when they told us they were gonna supply them into the stores. We finally did get some, and those don't expire until, I'm thinking later this month, maybe early February. But at the rate we've been going and not restricting those who got the test, I mean,
So the actual test itself has a shelf life?
it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Yeah. And each one of those has to be reported into the system. That's how they're getting their numbers for our positivity and et cetera.
So nobody can hoard tests because they'd expire anyhow.
Right, yeah. So,
Or you find a lot of people are coming to get tested just to get tested, or are they actually people with symptoms?
both. So a
That's
lot of
the
people are
frustrating
coming
part then.
because they're traveling.
Yeah.
And they want to have a negative test. There's lots of people who have been contact traced. And so their employer may know that and require them to have a negative test before coming back to work. And or school. We see that in the schools as well. There's others that are in the panic, anxiety mode. They just want to know. I mean, we have individuals that's been tested weekly for 20, 30 times. The list just goes on, and never been positive. They work with the public. They're concerned, and so we have a little bit of everything there. As of yesterday, they restricted us now in the health departments that we can only test those under 18 years of age, those over 50 years of age that are symptomatic. So now, we're having to ask what those symptoms are and if they're in those age brackets. Today didn't go well. I'll
Yeah.
just tell you. It didn't go well at all.
When I saw
So-
CDC just changed now where they want a negative test after 5 days for you to go. I mean, it's just
Yes.
a rolling mess.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. You think you get one thing figured out and it jumps to the
Changes.
next.
Keep
and it
changing the goal
changes.
line.
So,
Yeah, it's hard.
I want that crystal ball. So if council
Yeah.
could, get that coming my way, I would appreciate it.
Thanks for doing what
sure.
you're doing, though. I mean,
Well,
that's a
thank you.
hard.
I
Yeah.
just, that range would be very
Yeah, I agree.
wise,
Yes,
just because of the unknowns.
yes.
Somebody want to make a motion for?
I'll make a
range?
motion to take the range from 17 to $22 per hour for
We
the
have a
part-time
motion on the
employee.
floor.
I'll second that motion.
All right, take a roll call.
Sure will. I wonder,
Did
Jim, did
have a
you
comment?
hear any of that?
Hey, Jim.
Oh, yeah, you heard it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Steve Huggins,
Aye.
Seth Wicker,
Aye.
Chuck King.
Aye.
Vicki Andrews,
I,
Todd Monensmith.
Aye.
Scott Elsey.
Aye.
Jim Oswald.
aye,
He's got frozen.
Motion
Little
carries
Okay.
7-0.
All right.
Have a little wider range than you gave
Yes.
before.
Thank you.
Thanks,
thanks,
Marlene.
Marlene.
Okay, Dustin? Are you want to come up as well, Sarah?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy to be here for the quarterly update on what's happening at the library. I've got 7 items that I just want to mention to you, and explain a little bit. The first and probably most significant is our change in policy to become largely fine-free as a library. We've eliminated most overdue fines. We have decreased the cost of both faxing and printing services, and have eliminated the cost for movie rentals.
Can you explain that to us, how you're deferring those costs? Or how do you make up for what you were getting in fines?
Sure. So, in short, we're not. The numbers are very small. In 2020, fines made up 0.76% of our total budget. In 2019, it was 1.23% of our
And
total.
put those in monetary terms.
I don't have that number.
$30,000.
Per year?
How much did you say, Sarah?
$30,000 for the whole year.
And you're eliminating those fines,
Correct.
eliminating that potential source of income.
That's correct.
Okay, so I heard you correctly.
Yeah, you did hear correctly. Fines do remain on all the passes that we have available to the observatory or the conservatory and those kinds of things. The mobile hotspots have fines, and then the interlibrary loans will also continue to have fines on them. The cost of lost items remains. If a patron loses an item, they are responsible for the replacement cost. If they should happen to find that item and return it, then the fines will be removed there. This wasn't a move that we made lightly. There was about 2 years of discussion with other libraries that had undergone this policy change, and almost to a person, their response was very favorable in terms of increased services they were able to provide, increased circulation, more patrons visiting, those sorts of things.
I apologize, but I don't understand the connection. Could you please explain that?
The connection between, so a lot of the patrons had viewed the threat of fines as a reason not to come to the library or not to check things out. We found with our patrons that a lot of parents were reluctant to get cards for their children because of that barrier. They saw that as a negative thing for them. And so
But they were still be responsible for a book that's to be returned
Absolutely.
or lost at whatever cost that you guys put on that, but just not an
Almost
overdue
like
fine, is what you're
right,
saying.
That, like, 25 cents a day
Yeah.
fine. But if they lose material, it's almost even more extreme because we require them to either return it or pay it in full. Where before we would kind of do like a payment plan and then we drag it out. And the cost of any lost book would shut off services, both electronic and physical. So they wouldn't be able to use the library until they either return the item or replace it.
Okay.
So there's still that responsibility. It's just I'm running my 3 kids to 1,000 different things, and we forgot to turn our 50 picture books in, and now we got,
Is there any way to track the change in policy to see if it's costs more to the library? Not let alone the $30,000 in fine, but is there could be more lost material, right? I mean, there could be more items that are late, are lost, are not accounted for. Is there some way to track it year over year to see if it was financially wise?
We can look at lost items, like we can run a report to see how many items are lost. Though that only goes by the items that are marked lost. Now, if they're returned the next month, it doesn't really account for that. It only shows us how many are lost for the month. But yeah, we'll gauge it. That people lose material and don't return material now, whether we have fines or not. In fact, the fine gets so large that they just keep it because they're embarrassed to even bring the book back. So it's kind of more of a mental game, really, than financial when it comes to that aspect. So a lot of the libraries that we talked to over the past 2 years, they've said they actually had more material returned than actually lost because people don't have that financial shame over their head when they bring the item back. So when they bring the item back, their account is cleared and then they continue to use the library. And so that they actually come back instead of just going, okay, well, I'll just keep these 10 books then because they're just going to make me pay for them, so I'll just keep them and never come back to the library.
Do you it sounds like you probably do. Do you track a percentage of late on a weekly, monthly, daily basis? And I'm curious as to what would happen to that with the new change in policy.
If a book is late?
Yeah, you probably, there's a certain percentage of your inventory that's late, week over week, month over month, year over year, and now if you're eliminating the late fees, I wonder what would happen, whether there would be more late items or less late items.
The only thing we really track is when it gets moved to lost or missing. And a lost item would be 30 days past its due date. So, we don't have that information for most of last year because we shut off fines and lost fees and missing during COVID. We actually didn't charge fines and fees in lost during COVID. It's kind of a trial run. We didn't really have any issues with it during that time period. So we'll have to be comparing this year's data to 2019, 2018.
So at what point, back in like 2019, if we go back to there, if something was late, that eventually you say, hey, it's not late, we're billing you for the item.
30 days passed.
So 30 days passed.
Yeah, so you can renew it twice as long as no one has it on hold. And then that last renewal, 30 days passed, then you're billed the full.
So there's no
price.
advantage if somebody had 10 late books. There's no point being embarrassed not to get it back to you because some way you're going to bill them for the 10 books anyway, right?
Right.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's.
so now
okay.
they get billed for those 10 books, which shuts off their services,
Yeah.
essentially.
Mhm.
But if they bring them back, then
That's
that wipes
fine.
away.
Okay.
And then they can
Yep.
continue to use the library.
Okay.
Where before, there was still like a processing fee that stayed on and some other, and then the fines that would stay on up to $5 both.
Makes sense.
Hopefully that'll cut down on some administrative.
I was gonna say administratively.
Yes,
Yeah.
so administrative, our front desk staff have found that they have more time to work on some other projects and different things
Good.
like that, because they're not constantly, and also morale, that was the other thing.
I'm sure it was awkward to have to reach out to people and be a
Yeah.
collection agency to say,
When there's a mom standing there with the two kids and you're like, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Can't check
Yeah,
this
That's,
way.
yeah,
So,
that's good.
so yeah, we'll see. I challenged my staff, I was like, you have those that weren't as in favor of it. I said, you have 2 years to find a library that wishes they had never done it, and they couldn't find it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So along with that, since they've eliminated fees on movies, DVDs and such, circulation's up 56% in 2 months. So we've seen it as an incentive for people to come and check those out. The next item is that one of the benefits of the remodel that we did. The meeting room usage is up significantly. Over 2020, it's a 133% increase. Now, 2020 was a light year because so much of this year was spent closed due to COVID. However, we're up 60% over 2019 numbers, which we kind of use 2019 as our pre-pandemic baseline. And to have that significant an increase in usage of the meeting rooms directly attributed to they're not dark, the lights don't flicker in them, they're not freezing cold, they're really pretty pleasant places to be, and they're being utilized really well. Additionally, the Book of Librarian service is continuing to see more use. We had 111 instances in 2021. That's up from 14 in 2020 and 27 in 2019. So it's a very significant increase, almost a tenfold increase over last year.
What is that?
Yeah.
So Book Librarian, Sarah.
So you can actually book 15 to 30 minutes of one-on-one time with a librarian on staff. So we schedule it so it's off desk time, so they're not trying to help other patrons at the same time. And it's anything and everything, like helping write resumes, how to use an electronic device, how to use Libby for downloading ebooks. A lot of times people will bring their laptops in and we're just helping them find things on it and how it works. A lot of times, I think we even offer kind of like one-on-one readers advisory type services with that as well. Genealogy help, you can get one-on-one genealogy help with the librarian off desk.
I did not even know you guys did that.
Yeah.
You're gonna be
We'll have a
overwhelmed
lot- I
now
know.
because
Yeah.
she's probably gonna put that in the paper.
And they're like,
Just got some advertising here.
Yeah, we may have to hire more librarians.
Right.
That's a good problem to have.
iPad, what do I do with it? And it's like, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you a librarian and we'll figure that out.
They're gonna be busy.
That's cool.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's a
No, that's good.
valuable service we provide. Our programming, just in terms of numbers participating, we're back up to the 2019 levels, so we're through the pandemic. The Children's Books Festival we had last month drew 1,500 people over the course of the day, which is a lot of people to run through the building. We have replaced 2 of our HVAC units. I don't know exactly how many there are through the building, but different zones have different units. They were replaced because they weren't working like they should, and it was commensurate with their age. They didn't fail prematurely. We had funds set aside for replacements of this sort, and expect to get quite a few years of use out of them. And then just 2 new services that we are going to be rolling out in the next several months. One is Hoopla, and that's a digital streaming service. It will stream movies, ebooks, audiobooks, and music as well. And then we are jumping on the bandwagon with overnight pickup availability. Is it a locker sort of setup?
Yeah, it's a locker system. We hope to have a bank of lockers at Southern Wells next to the book drop that we have out there already, Bluffton and our Alcyon location. And the idea is that there'll be a selection when a patron's placing a hold, they do overnight locker and then what location. And once those items are available, we'll contact the patron and then we'll actually put them in the locker and we set the lock to the last 4 digits of their library card. And so then that way, let's say they work hours when we're not open, or like the Southern Wells, if they're not able to get into the library on a regular basis, then we can still provide material with them. We're doing that right now at Southern Wells through the high school librarian. She's actually taking the material that patrons place on hold and getting them to the students, which is pretty cool that she's willing to do that, but that only helps those patrons that have students, and it only helps them during the school year, during the summer. So we're pretty excited and hope it goes well.
Awesome.
Yeah. And those are the updates that we have for you for this quarter.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
And I should have looked this up, so I'm sorry. What is your budget for the library for the year? I mean,
For
estimated
operating
total,
or
like the total budget line. I can look it up if you don't have a clue.
Yeah,
you know.
you'll have to look it up. Without 2.3 maybe operating, not
Okay.
including LURF, but what we budget for LURF and rainy day and bond. I think, but don't quote me on that.
I can
I can
look it up.
tell you that.
When you were talking about the 20,000 and 30,000 in fines, I was trying to just figure out, okay, so what is your total budget? So
Yeah.
that was my only reason for asking.
I'm personally really pleased with the way the library turned out with the
Yeah.
new updates, and what you guys are doing is great, and all these programs, and sounds like you're doing a great deal for the community, and we appreciate it.
They do, I will say that at that day when it was windy and not very nice outside.
Parlor City
Yeah,
Christmas.
Parlor City.
Uh-huh.
You guys had programs in the library, and you have a very nice location for that.
Yeah.
The steps and everything, it's a great location, and it was great for those
Yes.
recitals that they were having,
Yeah.
so that's very much appreciated.
Yes, we've used those quite a few times. In fact, during the Children's Book Festival, so that people could have the option to spread out, all those shelving down the middle is on wheels. And so we, push that off to the outside, and then they could spread out during that main concourse if they wanted to. But we just looked up, and the stairs were just full of kids, just all drawing with the author at the same time. And it was
Cool.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Anybody have any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to other business, we have miscellaneous business, I don't know.
I don't have anything miscellaneous, I just have what's listed.
Okay, so that 2022 solid waste salary contract.
That is the contract between the commissioners and yourself in the solid waste district. You pay the salaries and then the solid waste reimburses. It just lists the laborers, it doesn't list their wage, but it lists the supervisor, the controller, and then the board members make $60 per meeting. Commissioners have already approved it, so it's solid waste.
Do we need a motion for that?
You do.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion for that contract.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2022 solid waste salary contracts.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Wait, Chuck seconds. All in No, can't do all in favor yet.
Steve
Roll call.
Steve
Aye.
Huggins,
Yeah.
Seth.
Aye.
Chuck King.
Aye.
Vicki Andrews.
Aye.
Todd Monsmith.
Aye.
Scott Elzy.
Aye.
Jim Oswald.
Yeah.
Okay, 7-0, I believe. Then we have the annual certification of council contract disclosure policy.
Yes, and this is your version of the nepotism policy. It just, you sign, and it's regarding disclosure of county contracts with the business interests of relatives.
That's not really a motion.
Don't really need a motion.
Just need to sign it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll do that.
And same with the encumbrance summary, that's just for your pleasure. I mean, you've already approved these.
So I believe, did everyone get a copy of that? We did, I believe, in the email and here tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And the general fund, we had $602,976 left in unexpended budget money, which was 5.75%.
What was that amount again?
6029, what?
602,976.69, which was 5.75% of our budget, and then 128,000 of that'll go back, roll over to 2022 in encumbrances.
Was that pretty close to what we, was there an estimate on that when we were doing budget on income? That rollback, was that ever, did they figure that when we just, DLGF or whatever figured it out?
No.
You don't know till you get down to the
Right.
end of the year anyway, so
Right.
yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything from council needs to be brought up tonight? Audience, you boys need to
Do
bring
we get any
anything
extra
up.
badges for showing up to this at least?
That's why they're here.
All right.
Citizenship in the community.
Hey,
Oh, good.
thank you for coming.
All right.
Thank you.
It's neat.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion second. Take roll call.
Sure. Steve
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Seth Wicker, Chuck King,
Aye.
Vicki Andrews.
Aye.
Todd Monsmith.
Aye.
Scott Elzy.
Aye.
Jim Oswald.
Aye.
Motion carries
All
7-0.
We're adjourned.